Fatima as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of those kind of movies, they promote this idea that you should just follow your heart no matter what the consequences, you know. Forget about what's right and wrong. If you're attracted to somebody, then you should just be going for it, you know. And that's a very problematic, obviously, concept for us. Following your desires doesn't lead to happiness. You know, freeing yourself from your desires and submitting to the Creator is the road to happiness.
So, definitely, ultimately, isn't it? I mean, subhanAllah, what other trends? We've discussed quite a few trends about following your desires, and what other trends are there that are sort of promoted within things like movies and whatnot?
You know, there's lots. I think there's a lot of gender stereotypes that are pushed in movies as well. You know, women are often kind of the ones who, you know, often they just talk about relationships and men. That's kind of the role that they play in these movies, and the men are kind of the ones who are going after the women, and they're, you know, often portrayed as really, really masculine and having to kind of, you know, talk the talk and walk the walk and all the rest of it. So that, you know, there's movies that are dedicated to that. Then there are some films that are dedicated to showing people having, you know, a good time, a so-called good time in the most kind of extravagant and flamboyant ways. And, you know, there's kind of a whole series of films that are dedicated to that. We have ideas in films such as girls going through makeovers and they're, you know, she's not really noticed until she has this dramatic change of appearance and suddenly she's like, you know, a newborn person and everyone looks at how she walks down the street, a changed butterfly or whatever else it is. And you get this idea that it's all about the appearance, it's all about how you look.
And the impact of Hollywood across the world, you've got maybe Bollywood and Nollywood even.
You've got all of these things.
Quite interesting, I mean, subhanAllah, we've got a caller from Malik Idris from Nigeria, and he's calling in today this morning. Assalamu alaikum, Malik.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Malik Idris. Barakallah fiqh for joining us. Do you have a question or a comment?
No, you're speaking with Abdul Malik Idris.
Yes, assalamu alaikum. Do you have a question or comment? Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you very much for the show. I really like this show. I'm calling from Nigeria.
Oh, mashallah. Do you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I said the program, I really like, you know, what you're talking about, the children following the role models and everything. It's a really good step because, you know, it's a major issue disturbing the Islamic community nowadays. And it was really fascinating. I like it. And I have many friends that have followed role models to smoke and everything and have gone astray. Yes, that's a very good step, and thank you very much for the show.
Barakallah fiqh. Thank you so much for your comment and your support there. He noted the fact that young people are widely affected by some of the messages that we find within the media. Sister Fatima, how big is an influence of media and movies in a negative way on our young people, especially within the Muslim community?
I think it's also about your peers. You know, it's the media, but then it's also your peers. I mean, I can only really talk from experience. And when I was a teenager, although I came from a religious family, I was really curious about going to a pop concert, right? And all my friends were like telling me that this was like the ultimate experience, you know, in bliss and being high and being, you know, excited and everything. So I won't go into the details, but somehow I ended up in the biggest pop concert, outdoor pop concert in history at the time, right? Which was in, I won't say where it was. And basically when I was there, I was this little teenager with my hijab on, right? I think all the things that my mum and my parents had kind of imparted to me started coming back to me, you know, at that point, because I was standing there in a sea of people, quite sweaty, quite, you know, people were doing drugs. There was all sorts of stuff going on. I had no idea this is what it would have been like. You know, I was just curious, a curious teenager. And I'm glad that my parents didn't kind of condemn me or, you know, make me feel bad about it. Rather, they kind of gave me a bit of space to come to my own conclusions. You know, they gave me the guidance, but they gave me the space and the chance to say, actually, I don't choose that anymore, you know. And I think all young people, they go through that they come to a point where they have to make a choice. You know, and when I was standing there, when I was standing there, I was thinking to myself, this is not the type of place I want to be in, you know, and I'm a Muslim girl. This isn't the right sort of place, you know. And I remembered going on Umrah with my parents and being in a sea of people. And I just remembered, you know, subhanAllah, that was pure ecstasy. You know, that was the high. So I think another message in that is we've got to give our children alternatives, right? Everyone wants to feel excited. Everyone wants to feel like they belong. We can take our children to Umrah. We can show them the real role models, you know, that we've been given as Muslims. I'm sure you're going to mention some of them.
Inshallah, yes, definitely. And I mean, coming back to this issue of young people as well, social media is a big issue. I mean, we've covered quite a lot of stories about social media and how it affects young people. But what does Islam say about the emulation of people? And this is something that I think a lot of young people need to take into account. What does Islam say about emulating people, Sister
Just to
Sana?
touch on what Sister Fatima was saying before I go on to that, I was listening to a talk about this. It was by Ustad Nu'man Ali Khan, and he was talking about role models. And he was saying one of the world's worst disasters is children losing their innocence well before their time. And it's about this whole idea of seeing these people and children, you know, naturally they want someone to look up to. And what he was saying was so inspirational, subhanAllah. He said, you know, we always look for role models outside. We always look for the external role model, whether that's in film or celebrities or whatever it is. But he said, look in the mirror and see yourself as a role model. Because if you have younger siblings, they are looking up to you. Whether you like it or not, you are their role model. If you know, so subhanAllah, it's that whole concept of looking at yourself as a role model.
Definitely. We've got a caller from Brother Rahim from Watford on the line. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Rahim. Thank you for joining in. Do you have a question or comment?
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you for joining in the show.
Thank you.
Do you have a question or comment, brother?
I've been a social worker for over 26 years, and I've worked in child protection throughout the country. And one of the things I've realized is that there's a lack of good Muslim role models with regards to mothers. And every case I've been involved in, we haven't got enough, you know, mothers who are good role models to their children. You know, fathers are out there doing different things. And I think once you've got good mothers who are role models, it passes over to children who are older, it helps them in society. And every case I've been in, it's always been because the mother hasn't been a good role model, or that we don't have enough good sisters who are role models to their children. And I think mothers are more important than, in my opinion, than what fathers are at times.
Wow, subhanAllah. Barakallah fiqh. Thank you so much for your comment. That's a really interesting comment there, the importance of mothers as role models. And we were talking a little bit earlier about the alternatives that we can give as role models. So, Sister Liz, if you could briefly tell us some of the role models that we should be looking at who were essentially mothers as well.
And I think what we need to remember is that as, you know, Muslims, we are absolutely spoilt for choice in terms of female role models. When I came into Islam, I can remember I'd always had this feeling that religion in general, it can be a bit exclusive towards women. So coming into Islam, I was looking specifically for these female role models. And, you know, subhanAllah, we are absolutely spoilt for choice. The first convert to Islam, Khadija radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet, you know, a mother, a businesswoman, you know, a pillar of society. So many ways, so many different ways that she was a role model to the early Muslims, to her own children, and, you know, a pillar of support to her husband as well.
MashaAllah. And what do you think about that, Sister Fatima? What alternatives should we be looking at as well?
I think, first and foremost, we, as parents, do have to be the role models. You know, children are not affected by anyone more than they're affected by their parents. And actually, I would question the whole idea of the father not being just as important a role model as the mother. You know, because I know with boys, especially, when they get to a certain age, they're not interested in them, you know. To be honest, they're kind of looking towards their father. What does dad do, and what does dad say in this situation? How does dad handle this, and how does dad handle that, right? So I think both of us, mothers and fathers, have a very important role to play, and that's where it starts. You know, and then of course we've got, you know, subhanAllah, we've got like a sky full of stars, haven't we, of role models, subhanAllah. And Khadija is one of them. We have Fatima radiallahu anha. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned 4 women. He said that these are the greatest women of all time, and he mentioned Khadija, Fatima, his daughter. He mentioned Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, and he mentioned Maryam, the mother of Isa alayhi salam, Mary.
Yeah, subhanAllah. I mean, this has been, mashallah, a very riveting discussion. We're actually out of time, but barakallah feek for your comments and your contribution as well. Well, rom-coms and novels can be a fun way to pass the time. We must be aware of the ideas prevalent in these stories. And remember that although this is what popular culture dictates, we have our own culture, the Islamic culture. As Muslims, life is one filled with honor for us, given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we mustn't get carried away with all the romance and fun we are shown, but rather remember that really there is so much more there are so many different aspects to this issue, and it's a lot less funny than some of these storylines, and we have to consider that as well. With the rich history we have and the countless female heroes that form it, we must try to get familiar with them, build a connection with their legacy, and remember their honor and our own. Well, an interesting discussion there from the sisters, but what do you think about this issue? We'd love to hear from you and your comments. Please email us at womensam@islamchannel.tv or contact us on our Facebook page or tweet us at @islamchannel, #womensam. We're off to another break now, but do stay tuned as we will be back with our last segment where we will be looking at a dilemma that many sisters can relate to. See you in 3. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Don't just go.